أما بعد. We all know and believe that the best of this ummah after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, the closest friend of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is the successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, direct successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, he was qualified to be in that position. He was qualified to be the successor, Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it was also the wish and the instruction of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But do you know, there was someone who was more qualified than Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu to be the Khalifa and successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Guess who that person was? Guess?
Ali.
Huh?
Ali.
No. No. I'll tell you who that person was, who was more qualified, or perhaps the most qualified of all the companions of the Prophet ﷺ to be the leader and Khalifa of our beloved Prophet ﷺ. No.
Abu Ubaidah,
No. No.
Ja'far,
No. No.
We all Sahaba.
Zayd bin Haritha. And it's not my word. It is the verdict of al-Mu'mineen Sayyida Aisha radiyallahu anha. She said, if Zayd was alive when the Prophet ﷺ was leaving from this world, he would have appointed him as his Khalifa directly. لو كان زيد حيا لاستخلفه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. That's how qualified Zayd bin Haritha was in the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That without any second opinion, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have appointed him as his Khalifa without any doubt. And this is the verdict of none other than the daughter of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, the beloved wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-Mu'mineen Sayyida Aisha radiyallahu anha. And there's a reason why. But unfortunately, he wasn't alive. He passed away. He was martyred in the battle of Mu'tah. He was martyred in that battle. And there's a reason why Zayd bin Haritha radiyallahu anhu, who was the adopted son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, literally, and the most beloved of all people to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And every companion knew that he was the most beloved to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As a matter of fact, when there was an incident of a woman who had committed theft, and the Prophet ﷺ was going to enforce the prescribed punishment on her, the whole family of that woman, the whole tribe of that woman, they said, we need to approach the Prophet ﷺ and we need to ask him to forgive her. So we need to find someone who can intercede on her behalf, who can talk to the Prophet ﷺ, whose intercession the Prophet ﷺ would not reject. They all unanimously agree that there is no one other than Zayd bin Haritha radiyallahu anhu who has that place in the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. But guess what? The Prophet ﷺ didn't listen to that either. Because when it comes to the law of Allah, there's no budging on that. There's no compromise on the law of Allah. So the Prophet ﷺ actually became angry even with Zayd bin Haritha radiyallahu anhu for even bringing such a request to waive the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even temporarily. So when the Prophet ﷺ used to send any campaign, any military expedition in which he was not there, but Zayd ibn Haritha was there, Zayd ibn Haritha was always the Amir. He was always the leader, always the commander. In his presence, no one was given charge of no one was given the authority in charge of the army. It was always Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu who was in the first spot. And so when Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu, he passed away, after that, his son, who was basically the adopted grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Usama bin Zayd, he was also the favorite of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Usama so much as well. So Usama was very young. He was maybe 18 at that time or 17, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made him the Amir of an expedition that was going. So people started criticizing. People started saying, how can a young child be put in charge of an whole army? How is that real? How is that wise? So they started criticizing the decision of the Prophet ﷺ. Basically, when he put Usama bin Zayd in charge, the Prophet ﷺ heard about it. Of course, it made its way to the Prophet ﷺ, and he gave a khutbah. He assembled the people and he gave a khutbah, and he said, he was hurt. He said, إن كنتم تطعنون في إمارته فقد كنتم تطعنون في إمارة أبيه. If you're criticizing Usama's leadership, you did not stop criticizing his father's leadership either. There were people who criticized even Zayd radiallahu anhu, the father of Usama radiallahu anhu, when he was always put in charge. There were people whose mouths have nothing better to do, like Munafiqeen, for example. Their only job is to criticize. Anything and everything that happens, that's always positive, that's always productive, their job is to criticize. And the Prophet ﷺ said about Zayd ibn Haritha, Wallahi in kana la khaliqan li imarati. I swear by Allah, he was the most qualified of all people of leadership. That's why Aisha radiallahu anha, she said if he was alive, he would have appointed Zayd bin Haritha as his successor, as the Khalifa. So it doesn't mean that Zayd bin Haritha was more superior than Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Of course, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu maintains his rank on top of this ummah. That does not get compromised. But in terms of leadership, in terms of qualification of leadership, Zayd ibn Haritha had no parallel. I'll tell you tomorrow who was most qualified to be the leader of the Ummah in the eyes of Umar radiallahu. And it's not Uthman radiallahu. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillah.
Can be, nowadays people feel they don't cut their hands off. Is it possible that we modify it? Would a stiff, I think heavy plastic glove, so they cannot use their hand?
There are modifications.
Huh?
There are modifications.
They can use their hand, but at the same time it's visible.
Yes, there
They
are
won't
modifications.
shouldn't be able to take it off. So they know he's a thief.
There are different, alternatives to that.
Have there been any more threats?